Hello and welcome. The Death Guard are one of my favourite traitor legions, mainly because their story shows that Nurgle can be coercive and manipulative. Instead of the usual happy grandfather persona he tends to exude. The Death Guard, the 14th Legion, were Tyrant's sons, once proud and noble, now a festering, pestilent mockery of what they once were. The Death Guard were one of the original Astartes legions that took part in the Great Crusade for the Emperor, as part of his plan to reunite humanity under his banner. Their original homeworld, Barbarous, was a death world, its air so toxic life struggled to flourish. The people on the planet lived under the oppressive yoke of the Overlords. These were alien necromancers. The Overlords were alien tyrants, as I said, that saw humans as little more than playthings they could torment for pleasure. These aliens were also exemplary necromancers. When they weren't tormenting the human population, they were using them for grotesque experiments. This was where the Primarch Mortarion comes into our story. During a hunt for human playthings stroke test subjects, the Overlord in the care heard a crying child. It was odd to say the least. The child also had no breathing apparatus, but seemed unharmed by Barbarous' toxic atmosphere. To say Naker took pity on the young Primarch would be a lie. The reason he didn't slay the child where it lay was curiosity. Curious on why it was not dead, even more curious on what experiments the child could survive. It wasn't just the experimentation that filled the Primarch's life, it was also constant tests of strength where Mortarion had to fight skin golems, of endurance, and what poisons would lay him low, and loyalty. It seems such a test to Mortarion, at least, whether it was or not, we will never know. That finally got Mortarion to break his chains of servitude to his overlord father. Outside of his room, Mortarion heard a commotion. Some skin golems were about to kill a trading caravan. Mortarion did stop to think whether or not he should help the people, if this was a test. But Mortarion figured he was going to fail either way, so he decided to help them. Well, he was damned if he didn't, and he was damned if he did. One of the people he saved was to become the herald of the Destroyer Plague himself, Callus Typhon. This act of insubordination meant Mortarion could never return to his residence, so he went to the nearest human settlement, thus forming a rebellion, and this would be the original Death Guard. Now, the Death Guard that fought along Mortarion in the Great Crusade started as a legion of Death Raiders. These are the Astartes, the ones on Barbarous were just humans that he had equipped. These were the Astartes we're talking about now. Now, they were named for their preferred method of attacking at dusk. The Emperor wasn't known for his complicated naming conventions. The main number of original Dusk Raiders came from the Terran area of Albia. The clans of Albia were especially warlike, even for Terra prior to the Unification Wars. Now, where the Gene recruits showed great skill in attacking at dusk. Like I previously said, the reason for this was that the guards were changing as with the light, causing confusion and using the coming shadows to hide mass infantry attack. Using mass infantry in attacks has been their modus operandi of a Death Guard even after the fall to chaos, which is absolutely terrifying to think about. It is one thing to have a legion of transhuman Astartes attacking your fortress, but now add in the blessings of Nurgle, it just goes past 11. Now, it was a century of warfare under the name of Dusk Raiders before the Legion were reunited with their Primarch. The change of a name was not as smooth as it was hoped, but slowly the Dusk Raiders were dissolved and only the Death Guard remained. After the Death Guard's reunification with Mortarion, the Death Guard gained Mortarion's absolute disdain for all tyrants. They saw the Great Crusade more of a liberation of humans of the galaxy than actually a war of conquest. During the Great Crusade, the Death Guard would never stop, owing to resupply and reinforce on the move. They built no garrisons or fortresses, just marched forward, killing or opposed them, and so in turn the Emperor. And then, obviously, after their fall to chaos, in turn Horus. Now, it was Mortarian's life on Barbarous and the rule of the Overlords that bred in him a burning hatred for Psychers and tyrants. Moderate hatred of Psychers forced his legionnaires, who showed any sign of the talent, to suppress them. If they didn't, they could be exiled or executed. Mortarion was one of the first primates to turn against the Emperor. The reason most people know is the Emperor killed Mortarion's adoptive father, making Mortarion swear fealty to him. Where this is a reason, it is not the main reason. That was because the Death God Primarch realized while they were liberating humans from one tyranny, they were just being put under the yoke of a different tyrant. Now, this one was gold, and the Primarch's called father. So this led to the Dropside Massacre. Now, I could talk about this battle, but it would be more poignant in a Raven Guard video than a Death Guard one. So, it happened and the Death Guard were involved. Parallel to that was the purging of loyal Marines in the Traitor's forces. The Death Guard had a lot. The main bulk of the Legion were actually from Terra itself. Well, mainly because Barbarous couldn't really produce a lot of Astartes because it couldn't really sustain life for long periods. And the Emperor had to make up the numbers somehow. But it does quite bring up the question, how did the Emperor know that the Death Guard would need so many? Anyway, one of the loyal Death Guard was Nathaniel Garrow, a legionnaire with the biggest and brassest balls of all time. I mean, seriously, he really has. Right, long story short, he stole the Eisenstein, flew to Terra to tell the Emperor of Horus's treachery. First person he told was Roman Dawn, who was disgusted at the idea that the Primarch could turn against the Emperor. The Imperial Fist in Primarch was going to kill Garrow where he stood. Straight as an arrow, Garrow is going to get his own video so we could really dive into his lore. He is just amazing, one of my favourite characters in the Horus Heresy. Now, during the purging of the loyal Astartes in the traitor forces, Mortarion killed a full third of his legion. This was the highest amount of loyalists in a traitor legion. The remaining left the Istan system with Mortarion to start fighting loyalist legions. During this time, the Death Guard were still Astartes. It was not until they started their journey to Terra when things started to go wrong. In the warp, the whole Death Guard fleet got lost. This was due to Typhon taking the astropaths from their choir and bringing them to Mortarion. He was saying they were sending messages to the Emperor warning the loyalists of an impending attack. This was untrue. The astropaths were loyal to Mortarion. Typhon used Mortarion's own hatred for Psychers against him, so the Lord of the Death Guard executed the astropaths. Only because Typhon convinced his Gene Father that he could guide the fleet through the warp. Now, around the same time the astropaths were murdered, the Gellerfield's blink. Now, a Gellerfield blink is literally, it goes on and off like a blink. And in the middle of warp, and that's not a good thing. Inexplicably, the Astartes started getting sick. Now, this is unheard of in all the other legions. Now, the Death Guard, who regularly drank poison, were getting sick. This was beyond anything anyone could imagine. And Astartes in the medical bay was euthanized by the Primarch, destroying both his hearts. Now, this would kill a legionnaire. Didn't put down the stricken Death Guard though. He stood straight back up, and Mortarion believed this would be the first time he probably felt fear. Now, soon after, more and more Death Guards were falling ill from this mysterious illness. Nurgle, the god of disease and pestilence, offered the Lord of Death an ultimatum. Give him his soul, or his legion will suffer for eternity. Like I said, this was a coercion, and it shows that Nurgle can actually be pretty evil. So, Mortarion took the deal, but as soon as the deal was struck, the inflicted Marines started to change. Not in the way Mortarion was hoping. The legionnaires were not getting better. They were now swollen with pus and disease, their faces went gaunt and pallid, bobos of pestilence swelled and burst all over their bodies. The Death Guard were now carriers of Nurgle's blessings. and, true to Nurgle's word, they no longer suffered from the virus. They became plague marines. Now the Astartes will not be the only ones to change. Typhon became Typhus after taking in the entire Destroyer Plague. This was a disease that plagued the Death Guard, and Eltarion grew in size and with new moth wings, no longer a Primarch, but a Demon Primarch. Now, after they leaving the warp, the Death Guard would change forever, and they made their way to Terra. Now, the Siege of Terra is a different story altogether, and I will be doing that separately. Anyway, thank you very much for watching this more longer than usual video on the Death Guard, one of my favorite legions. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and hope to see you all again soon. Links to Whaling Games, Forbidden Planet, my Patreon, my merchandise, and my comments all down below. And I hope you have a good day. Like, comment, and subscribe what you think of the Death Guard. And have a good one.